Record.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Real Siblings. It Ain't Easy. I'm Eric Seaman, realtor with Keller Williams Heritage in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm here with my sister,
Donna Reed, and I'm with Keller Williams Southern Arizona in Tucson, Arizona.
And in this podcast, we reminisce on how our life and upbringing in the small village of Lindsey, Ohio, impacted our lives and careers in real estate in the Southwest states we now call home. We work to connect the two houses that we lived in together with our parents and two additional houses that Donna lived in with her family decades later. We have learned that our nostalgic conversations certainly I had something in my throat. Certainly take a lot of turns in any episode. We hope we are successful in providing you expert knowledge of our markets while we share some history, statistics, maybe just some simple information on the local real estate market and on where we came from. So, Donna, how about providing our listeners an introduction to our guest today and where we're headed today?
Awesome. So following our October and our November podcasts, we'd like to share some holiday memories today of our life in Lindsey, Ohio. Most importantly, today, we're going to talk about Christmas, living in the house across from the church and the memories that surround the church in the small town and all that came along with living there. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the picture of the house behind me. As part of that, we have invited our first guest to our podcast, like Eric said. So this is Rachel Zimmerman Williams. Welcome, Rachel. Please say hello.
I didn't know that I was the first guest. I feel so
honored. and without a struggle, right? Nothing works perfectly.
Yeah, the pressure is on now, Rachel.
Right. It's okay. I'm up for it.
All right. So you guys, Rachel was a little girl when Eric and I were much older, and her parents have been a part of the community for many years, as were her grandparents and many other relatives, right, Rachel?
Yes. Big family.
As a child experiencing Christmas, enough younger than us, she brings her own memories to share. But what's most important, you guys, Rachel is also now a realtor. Rachel, can you tell our listeners about your real estate career, where you live, where you work, and how is it going?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in Toledo. I'm just a little bit, probably 45 minutes north of where Lindsey, where this setting is of this beautiful house behind you. And gosh, I mean, I got into real estate because of you. So, which I'm very thankful for. So career change for me as a couple of years ago, was in the nonprofit world, did a lot of fundraising and just kind of got burnt out. And so you called me one day and planted the seed, and here I am 2 years later, full-time real estate. So,
and killing it.
Thank you. So yeah, everything works the way it should. So I'm happy to be here for more than one reason.
That's awesome. And so Rachel, you're with a company, Keller Williams wasn't there. We talked about it, but you're with a company called Danberry, right?
Correct.
And
yes.
And Danberry works clearly all over. So you travel sometimes. You and I talked about this, the miles from living in Toledo, and you have a son who is 13 now. Is that how old he is?
Yeah.
And is he as tall as you? Most recent pictures, he looks like he's at least your height.
He's taller. Yes, he has surpassed, which, as I tell him, isn't much when your mom's 5'2", but he's now about 5'6". So he's pretty.
We'll see if he catches up with your brother and
the
other men in your family. So you service not only the Toledo area where you live and where you're raising Harrison, but you also do come back to Lindsey, and having grown up with a family there, you have, the rural areas, the farms and things like that. So you've kind of gotten involved all over the place. Tell me how far you drive, even though, like, for Eric and I, we're in cities, we can drive a long way and still be in the city. Give me an idea of how many miles you're putting on your car.
Well, it's funny that you ask, because I just did my mileage for November, for the month of November, just the month of November, 2,725 miles for just the month of November. So, so as you said, because of where we're located, yes, I live in Toledo, which in comparison to the cities where you live is small, but it's, it's a bigger city for here. So in the metropolitan area of Toledo, I service, but then also, yes, I mean, I have so many contacts in the Lindsey area, which is this, 45 minutes south of Toledo, that I've sold, I'm working on my 4th house right now in the little town of Lindsey. So, I will, because that's where my family and friends are. Yeah, I will drive. So, it's nothing to just hop on the turnpike and go 45 minutes for, a listing appointment and just, show a house, sell a house. Yeah, so that's what we do. And
That's
And just because I'm stalking, no, actually not. You just did a transaction with Kelly Reese recently. Does that name sound familiar?
Yes.
She's the buyer's agent representing our house that just sold.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And actually, well, okay. So here's the, 1 degree of separation from Lindsey. So the buyer is Owen Smith, who, his parents as well. So he's bought another.
Owen is who bought the house?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. We've been trying to figure out who that is.
Yeah.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh. I tried to buy that with them and they wouldn't do it, but didn't he do that other flip on Maine?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So he's doing amazing. Just in building his rental portfolio. So yeah, so just to your point, that's what it is. When my phone rings or I get a text, I never know who it's going to be and what they're going to want and where we go. So, I drove to, to met him after work and, we looked at the house in the dark because it's dark, here now at 7 o'clock, but that's what we had to do. And we put the offer in and we got it. So that's how we roll. Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. Our family will be so tickled to know that because we have a family Facebook page. So they'll be really happy to know that. And I expect spectacular things and a private tour when it's even though Owen doesn't remember me at all, his mom and dad do.
Right. Of course.
That's right.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. All right. So let's come back around to Christmas and to the house here. So, you and I have talked about your memories of coming to our house. So tell us a little bit about, I think you and I talked about the Carol and Candlelight service.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so tell our listeners a little bit about that and your memories.
Yeah. So, that is like a strong memory in my mind. So just that house that's behind you, right across the street from that was the church where we all went. And so we literally came out the front door of the church and that was the front door of that house that you're sitting in front of. And so your parents so the Sunday before Christmas was always the candlelight service at church. And so your parents always hosted cookies and cocoa afterwards. You literally walked out the front door of the church. You took 3 steps across the street and then into your parents' house. And as a child, come on, there's as many cookies as you could eat on this dining room table in this beautiful home. And so, and that's what they did every Sunday before Christmas. So, that's a pretty vivid memory in my mind. And it looked just like that picture that you have behind you. So, yeah.
It's funny because Eric and I were talking before, you got on about, so was Carol and Candlelight on a Wednesday or the week before or whatever? Because then the other memory is that on Christmas Eve, when we were kids, the children and the YF would do the service.
Right. Yes.
Is that still what happens?
They've kind of flipped it a little bit. So the kids program is usually on the Sunday during church before Christmas. And then the Christmas Eve service is the candlelight and a small sermon from the preacher. So they've kind of flipped it a little bit, but we still have the candlelight service, which is amazing and one of my favorite parts. So
Donna was saying that you're not using real candles anymore. Are they using electric candles or battery operated or something?
No, we use real candles. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've gone to battery, but I live in a predominantly senior area. So there might be a reason that they don't trust us with flames. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of kids in our church too. So we got to handle with care, but right.
Opposite extremes. Yeah. So that is a memory that we had. I was telling Eric another thing that I remembered. So that when Bill and Joyce Drager were the YF directors, Darren was, how does Darren relate in age to you?
He is 10 years older than me, so he would be
Okay.
mid-50s. Yeah.
Okay, so he's closer to your age, Eric. So, okay.
Yeah,
And-
Darren and Steve and Shelly and that
Yes.
group were all a couple years behind me.
Okay.
We were all in youth fellowship together, but when I was a senior, I think they were sophomores.
Okay. So we, one year, Bill and Joyce were, I don't know, they were there, but, and I clearly was helping with Sunday school or junior choir or something like that, and Darren's part in the play was called The Shining Star. And I will never, ever forget this. He stomped up on stage. He had to have been about 4. And he stood at the microphone and he went, "Twinkle, twinkle." And then he stomped off stage. And that was his whole part. And it's just Eric and I were laughing at the memories of little kids and what they do. And
yeah, we were just having that conversation yesterday. A lady that was talking to her daughter is the music director at a Catholic elementary school, and the advice that somebody gave her was, if everything doesn't go perfectly, it's okay, because that's the outtakes is what really you remember.
That's the expectation. That's really what everybody goes for. It's not for the kids who nail it and get the thing right. They want to hear all the goofs.
Twinkle.
It's the twinkle. Well, and when you think about that now, truly, those are the things that are playing on TikTok and Reels.
Oh
and
yeah, right. Yeah, we could have had our own channel if we would have had TikTok back then.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So, do you have, one other memory I want to bring up that we talked about just briefly. So when I was married and living there and living down on Main Street or back on Walnut, I don't remember. Gil my husband was quite an artist, and he drew the pattern for what would become a nativity scene at the parish house, now also called Workers' Home, which is Eric and I have discussed in a previous episode because we celebrated Thanksgiving over there. Mm-hmm. But then the other memory that I have is that your dad took the Mary Joseph and the baby Jesus, not all the other things, right? But he made those, and to be honest, they live out in the country, for our listeners that don't have any idea about this, and have a big, I guess it's the garage, right? It's not really a barn. It's a great big garage.
His wood shop, yeah.
Yeah. But he strategically located a light that made it look massive on the side of the garage. Does he still use that? He
does. Yep.
That's awesome. Yep. Did Mary and Joseph ever have to get painted for that? Or are they just like a solid color because you're just looking at the image?
Yeah. Honestly, I think they're just plain plywood, I think is what he cut them out of, and didn't paint them because he was just going for the shadow. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a super good memory because you can see it coming down the road. I don't know if there's any other houses on that side of the road at this point,
No, yeah. And that's sweet because you can see it from 590, which for those that don't know, that's the big road.
That's the
in
main
town.
road.
So you can see it from there. And I do want to say one other thing about the memory is, and I'm sure you both will remember, is who has the coal burning furnace in town that you always smelled. Like Christmas Eve is not Christmas Eve without coming out of church and smelling that coal burner.
All right.
Wow. No, I did not know someone was burning coal. Who are you talking about, Rach?
It's just, oh my gosh, it's like it's not Christmas Eve unless you smell that, and like the air is crisp, and then you get that coal smell. Oh my goodness, yes.
So do you know who it is? Do you know who?
I don't. And they're still doing it because it's still to this day. You walk out of church and you in the winter and you smell the coal. So I don't know.
Well, maybe we'll have to quiz our listeners.
Yes. I mean, my dad probably knows, but
Ryan and Andrea have the best idea.
They might, yeah.
Right? As the closest one. I mean, it wouldn't be Hammers, would it?
I don't know. I mean, Hammers don't live there anymore, but it could be the people that live there. I don't know.
Or right behind the fellowship hall, whoever bought that house.
Oh,
that's an older house. Mm-hmm. Oh, how interesting. That's very cool. That's very cool. All right. So back to the house. I know we're kind of bouncing around here, but do you didn't the house sold just now for, I think, 62 or something like that? Is that what the
I think
tax records
so.
say?
I think
Okay.
so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
And so, the one thing about this house, everybody, is that it looks really big. The attic isn't really quite tall enough for everybody to stand up in. Rachel could stand up there. She could live up there. But for my
I could
brother,
stand up in there.
yeah, not so much. So the third story was never used as a living space. And the rooms, by today's standards, are small.
Mhm.
Caleb, my youngest son, has memories of sitting in the TV room, and in the TV room having a tiny little TV sitting on the counter that we all gathered in there around. And he goes, I can't even imagine. So square footage wise, what is the house? It's under 2,000 square feet. I mean, I don't even
No,
know.
I think when I looked it up, it was about 2,150 is what it
Okay.
shows as what the county had it at.
Okay.
Think, Rach, that Owen has any plans to like structurally change it, like do anything that would take, I mean, clearly the bathroom needs totally redone,
Yeah.
but I wonder, do you have any idea what his plans are?
I'm sorry. So I'm working with Kelly on a different transaction that was Owen. I'm so sorry. It's not Owen that bought this house. I'm so sorry. And I'm like actively working with him on a different, but
On a different property.
right, represented by the same agent that you just mentioned. So that's why I was like, yeah, but
Okay.
but I would hope, when we went to look at it for you,
Yes.
there was a lot
Yeah.
of activity there. And that, obviously you have to,
Yeah.
To fix it up to be able to live in it. But so I'm assuming that whoever has bought this is, has good plans for it to, fix it up to, has great potential.
Didn't your dad tell me that, or tell you to tell me that whole back mudroom, laundry room would need to be torn off?
There was some water leaking from somewhere that I don't remember the details on, but yeah, the foundation and the roof he said would all have to come off and be redone
okay.
because it wasn't savable that way.
It's-
But he said structurally, he said all the brick is great. None of it has to be what they call like the duct point. And none of that has to be done. It's structurally, it's very sound. And that's what's kind of, speaks to
Amazing.
the construction, right? Because and the roof, for as old as it is, it should be replaced, but it's not, there's no leaks in it or anything. So structurally it looks great, but the inside is just
Well, and the whole reason I talked to Kelly is I had called the listing agent to find out who the buyer's agent was, to say, look, this is who I am, this is what we're doing, let your new owners know we would like to have a conversation.
right.
And I just mentioned the fact that you were working up in the area, and she goes, oh yeah, I'm working on a transaction with her right now. So
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
that's how I get. But part of what we did in the picture that's behind Donna, and again, we're referencing this, but for everybody who's listening on the podcast, the third floor mansard roof area had corbels and trim work underneath it. You can see in the picture right now. And Donna has 2 of those corbels, and I have 2 of those corbels in our houses. Dad pulled those down because the wood up underneath had gotten enough moisture damage that it had to be replaced. And that's when he pulled all those and put the vinyl in.
Yeah. So this picture's old compared to, after dad did the roof. But so Rach, when it's all fixed up, if I hope somebody uses it as an Airbnb, that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
But when it's all fixed up, what do you think the house might sell for? Because this gives an idea of the size of Lindsey and prices in Lindsey.
Right. So I can speak well to that because I've just had 4 transactions recently. So for that size, I would say around 190. If it's done, if it's refinished to its, potential.
Original.
And in original, there's only the 1 full bath downstairs, and upstairs is a very, very, very tiny, if I remember right. Like literally like back in.
My dad
and come out.
Rach, dad added that for us so that
I bet.
Yeah. It's a toilet and a sink. That's it.
That's literally, So because of that, I mean, when you're looking from feature standpoint, as you know, I mean, only one bathroom, but otherwise, I mean, it's a beautiful home. So I would say, and it has a nice corner lot. The garage, I don't know, again, that might have to be torn down because
I think so too.
And great. So, but even if it were there, detached garage, so you look at all those features. I would say at 190, I mean, if it's been restored to its complete potential for sure.
And that's astounding, because right now a house like that in my area is probably going to be selling in its as is condition at $250,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And same, if it was in the historic part of Tucson, it could be anywhere from 200 to 500, depending on the lot around it. Yeah. And then somebody would make it into $1 million house. And Denise, one other time we talked about this a little bit, and she's in the Orlando area. She kind of had the same comment, but that speaks to pricing around the country. And yet we all know that the same thing has been happening in your market. It kind of went crazy up, and you jumped into this in the middle of COVID, right?
I did. Right.
Prices go up, they're a little bit crazy, and then they come down, and there's a little bit more competition. And I'm guessing the pricing structure might not be so different. But Toledo's got to be a little bit more competitive than maybe Lindsey. I don't know.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. But I mean, as both of you know, but some of the listeners might know, is, I mean, if Lindsey is appealing to a certain amount of people, if you grew up there, or if you want a smaller town, if you have spouses that work, in the neighboring bigger cities, and so that's kind of a midpoint. But if that's where you want to live, then there is some competition. But otherwise, yes, it's not as not as great of a competition as it's in Toledo, for sure.
But that can do some opportunity. Okay, back to the house real quickly. What people can see. Dad used to put a candle in every window, and a candle being a red light bulb, in a paper wreath that was.
It was honestly, it's a 1950s thing. If you go looking for them and shopping for them, those red cellophane wreaths, you can find at auctions, and I have a couple of them. When we cleared out things back in 2015, I took several of the wreaths to put next to my Christmas tree in my house.
Okay.
But we even had them eventually up in the top, in the third floor, or in the attic space, in the two windows that were up there, so that we could light those candles too. And then he made the giant ones with cardboard tubes and light bulbs and Sara Lee coffee cake pans as the silhouette behind. It's like ingenuity, country ingenuity. That's what we'll call it.
He was very ingenious. And then he also had the tree in the window in the garage. Yeah, I remember that too.
And that stayed up all year round. Dad was proud of having.
That's right, in the garage.
Yes,
you're right.
Which was my bedroom for a while, but that'll be another story, right?
So the porch that you can see in the picture, this is the Lynn Street side of the house, and you can't see it very well, but Dad also had written "Merry Christmas" cut out of wood, and that's kind of up at the top of the porch, and it looks real bright and white in this image. And then at the other house on Main Street, Rachel, like before you were born, it said,
and that was across the street from. Do you even know that when we say the Main Street house, that was right across from Ink Mosier's house?
Right, we lived across there.
Know that. Okay,
yeah. And so there was a big front window, and there was a wreath. Dad would use the tree leftovers from our tree when we would go cut our tree. And it almost always had blue lights for whatever reason. It was a blue wreath, and it said "Merry Christmas" and then the Siemens across the bottom. And Ken has that now. Ken is the one that has that stuff. So that's on this porch here, and part of
and Ken is the woodworker in the family, so he's required to make duplicate sets for all of us.
Oh, right.
And he's going to personally deliver them.
Yeah, no. That'll never.
We'll bring him on the next family reunion.
Yeah. So Rachel, we're getting close here to where we need to wrap it up. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about your Christmas memories, or maybe now bringing Harrison to Lindsey? Because I know that, you don't live there full time, but you go back and forth a lot.
Yeah,
Anything?
right. So, with it only being, 45 minutes from us, Sundays are usually family days where we, go to see mom and dad. But, I'm 46 years old. Until last year, when we all went as a family to my brother's vacation home in Boyne, I have spent every Christmas at my parents'. I have not slept in any other bed than at my parents' house for Christmas Eve and Christmas.
That's cool.
And so therefore Harrison has as well. So, Christmas mornings, like Santa comes to Grandma and Grandpa's. He doesn't believe in Santa anymore, but
I know that guy.
Right, exactly. Yes, you do. He looks like you, as a matter of fact. But Harrison doesn't know anything else other than he's never woke up at our house on Christmas morning. It's always been Grandma and Grandpa's. And so, when
That's
he was
cool.
little, Grandma and Grandpa Grandpa and he would spread the reindeer food in the driveway and leave the cookies for Santa. And that's Christmas to me is and my mom and dad have lived in that house since the day they were married, and they will be married 50 years in February. So
I was thinking that, and they kept adding on and adding on.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it's been redone probably 5 times and added on to, but it's the same structure. So over Thanksgiving weekends, we came to mom and dad's house to watch the big Ohio State Michigan game, which is big here. And he had decorated for Christmas, and I pulled into the driveway, and like my heart just got warm, because now it's like, home for Christmas, because it's all decorated. And
That's sweet.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's an awesome memory. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you'll listen and you'll share. And if you watch it on YouTube, just know that I don't edit anything. And but if you listen to it, Eric takes care of it, makes the podcast
Good.
a little better. I am so happy that you are doing so well in real estate.
Thank you.
That honestly, it's giving you flexibility as a single mom with your son. And I see the pictures that you post with Harrison sitting in the car
Right.
and things
Even on
like
sick
that.
days.
Yeah.
Gotta load up. We got a photo shoot. Get in the Here's your blanket and your pillow. We gotta go.
Yeah. Exactly. But how fortunate, right? To have that kind of a thing instead of
yes. And seriously, it is all because of you, because this thought would have never came into my mind except that day. And honestly, when you called me, I was like, oh, that's cool. That was a good thought. And then it just kept hitting my heart. And I was like, I think there's something here. And you were right.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah. And I wish that you were working with me. But
right.
there, I'm glad that you're doing as well as you are. So
Thank you.
Eric, you want to wrap it up?
I will bring this one to a close. We want to thank everybody for listening and joining us today. Donna, myself, and our guest, Rachel. We've reflected, reminisced about our life and Christmas in Lindsey, Ohio. Excuse me. As we conclude and close up this episode, please keep in mind that our goal is to communicate, educate, and connect with you, our listeners. If you're in Arizona, specifically in Tucson, or in South Central Texas, or San Antonio, we are both realtors with Keller Williams Heritage, and we are here to help you find the perfect property to call home and make your own lasting memories. Mm-hmm. If you are across the United States or somewhere around the world, we are both part of extensive networks of professional real estate advisors like Rachel, and we would be happy to connect you in those areas. Remember, it may be simple, but it ain't always easy. And until next time, I'm Eric.
And I'm Donna.
And we are Real Siblings. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.